Providence Township Zoning Hearing Board in January to review the RHD variance request. To start the meeting, I'd like to rise and pledge allegiance. And the flag is in the back. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we're going to do a roll call. Gary Brown, here. Travis DeCaro, and Chris Curtis, and I'm here. Mark Konversky, here. Joe Pucci, here. Rusty Raymer, Marina Burton, Keith McLennan, no, I'm sorry, Eric Fry, our solicitor. Okay, before we get started, I just want to remind everyone of our schedule. So this is the second meeting. We have 2 more meetings scheduled. The next one is March 24th, and that'll be at 7 p.m. here at Arcola Middle School. I'm sorry, my bad. February 24th is the next one. Getting a month ahead of myself. And the next the meeting after that is March 24th, also here at the auditorium, 7 p.m. So tonight we're going to continue with the agenda that we started last evening, and recall that we finished up with the testimony from Mike Marzinski that Mr. Jonas compelled. The first thing we're going to do after I kind of summarize the flow here is there is an additional party that's requesting status, and attorneys here to present that to us, so we're going to take care of that first. And then after that, we are going to proceed with the allowing questions of Mike Marzinski, and we're going to go in order by the township, and understand you won't, what was the word, badger the witness. And then the next question will be Mr. Bagley, and then Mr. Yanoff for the neighborhood attorneys, and then the parties that were given party status will also have an opportunity to ask any questions of Mike. And then if there are any questions that the zoning hearing board or Eric has, we'll proceed with that. And then we'll allow Mr. Jonas to continue calling witnesses. We'll follow that same process where we'll allow the various parties to ask questions. And when Mr. Jonas is complete, then we'll allow the other parties in the same order to call their witnesses and allow the same question. At the very end of that, I was going to be clear about that. We're not going to be taking public comments or questions at the end of every meeting. We're going to do that at the very end. So after that entire process is done, where we go through all of the testimony from the witnesses and all the questions, at the end of that, we're going to open the meeting up to questions from the public. We will put a time limit on that. It'll be reasonable, and our court reporter will record and document those questions. But again, that'll be at the very end. It's not going to be tonight, I don't think. And we'll see, how many meetings we need to complete that. So I think that's it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric and ask him to begin tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Merdrakia, I see you're at the stand. I understand you have a party that you would like to introduce to the board.
Yes, first, Mr. Fry and the board, my name is Charles Mandraki. I am representing Damian Kusi and his wife Courtney, who have already been approved having standing since they live within 500 feet. He has switched attorneys to me, so I will be representing him. In addition, I'm representing Regina Mascaro Antonari, who does not live within 500 feet, but instead of making a big ordeal, Regina has issues that happened to her as a kid, and this does affect her emotionally. And so what I'm going to do is hand up a memorandum of law just to preserve my position on appeal in the event that I need to take an appeal and this case goes out.
Thank you. Who was the name of your parties within 500 feet?
Yes, Damian Kusi and his wife Courtney.
Sorry, can you spell that, please?
K-U-S-Y.
And what is their address?
3247 Maryland Avenue. He's already been approved, I believe, Mr. Fry.
Damien, yes. So they're no longer represented by Mr. Yanoff, they're now represented by you.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so let's deal with those first. Mr. Jonas, any objection to the Cusies?
There was no objection before, and just a change of counsel, Mr. Fry.
Yep, I'm just making sure. And do you have an objection to Mrs. Mascara?
Yes, under the standards that have been set and the decision been made by the zoning board, we object.
So why don't we do this? We're gonna take your memorandum. So he's already representing Mr. Cusie. Why don't we hold off on making any terms? So Ms. Mascara was not a party as of yet.
Correct.
We may make a decision on that at a future hearing to allow her or not allow her. But we'll
That's
take your
fine.
memorandum and consider it.
Yeah, I already handed Mr. Jonas a copy of the memorandum.
And one for me?
Yes, I do, of course.
While he's bringing that up, I did forget to talk about two logistical things. Please, if you ask a question or testify, make sure you have the microphone close to your mouth so the court reporter and the audience and the board can clearly hear you. So appreciate that. And again, cell phones on silence. Please limit interruptions or avoid interruptions. No shouting, booing, cursing. Really appreciate that. That'll help the meeting flow, and we'll be able to get through all of the necessary proceedings as expeditiously as possible. So back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. I think that's all we have for party status now. Mr. Jonas did advise me that he's requesting a couple more questions for Mike Brzezinski before we move on to the direct examination of him. So, Mr. Jonas, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mr. Fry, also just one procedural question. Is the policy of the board in this hearing, would the board permit rebuttal testimony following the presentation of the township and the objectives cases?
I believe yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
We're distributing Exhibit A7. Mike, do you recognize Exhibit A7 to be a copy of Section 143-55 of the Lower Providence Township Code?
I do.
Are you familiar with that section and all the subsections, A through H?
Yes.
And based on that, is it still your testimony that you do not perceive your function or responsibility to provide interpretations of zoning regulations?
Yes.
Also, I want to ask you about your testimony relating to the group living quarters. Was it your testimony yesterday that you believe that that use is permitted in the HC district?
Under the appropriate circumstances, yes.
Can you turn to the zoning ordinance, particularly to the HC district? Let us know when you're there.
Okay.
Can you point to the specific sections or subsections that would provide a basis for the supportive housing use to be permitted in the HC district?
The way we could imagine that use being permitted would be under a Class 3 use as, trying to suggest.
Class 3 use as what, sorry?
Class 3 permitted use. it's 2 acres and a minimum width of 300 feet.
And under what of the subcategories? Are you looking at section 143-110?
That's correct.
And that has subsections A through P. Which of those sections are you relying upon to say that the assisted housing would be permitted?
Letter N.
And that is anyone of the same general character as those listed above?
That's correct.
And which of the above uses, 1 through M, do you believe is of the same character as the proposed RHD use?
The letter C, the hotel and motel.
And what about hotel and motel, do you believe is the same general character as the proposed RHD facility?
2 factors. One would be it's largely a residential use, and it's largely a transient use.
Do you know what the projected average stay would be for the RHD facility at Eagle?
I vaguely recall,
And how long would you understand?
I'm sorry, I believe it's 60 to 90 days.
Which distinguishes it significantly from what is often referred to as a shelter or code blue shelter, correct? As a shelter or code blue shelter, sorry. So that's a very different type of use, correct?
Shelter is relevant or discussed in this application whatsoever and not related to the use that we are seeking, the supportive housing.
We're going to overrule because I think that is what he's asking. I think he's trying to say this is different. So does Michael agree that a code blue shelter is different than what the RHD is proposing?
Yes, I would agree to that.
Ms. Fry, I misspoke before when I referred to proposed RHD use as assisted in supportive housing survey. I just wanted to correct that. Mike, are the terms hotel and motel defined in the township zoning ordinance?
I believe so.
And are they in section 143-6.2?
Yes, they are.
And they are not in section 143-6 definitions, correct?
I don't believe so.
And is it your opinion then that the supportive housing of RHD qualifies as a hotel as defined in section 143-6.2?
Yes.
And is that also your opinion with regard to 143-6.2 subsection U, motor court or motel? At least motor court or motel, would the supportive housing qualify as a motor court or motel? Mike, did you hear my question?
No, I'm sorry.
Would it also, the supportive housing, qualify and meet the definition of motor court or motel in subsection U of section 143-6.2?
I don't believe so.
It would qualify as a hotel, but not a motel.
That's correct.
And why would it not qualify as a motel?
My understanding of the proposal, specifically for RHD, does not have the separate ground floor entrances.
So your testimony is that the supportive housing use would qualify via special exception as a Class 3 use in the AC district under Section 143-110N, correct?
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. So the township are ready to proceed?
The township is going to reserve its examination of Mr. Brzezinski for its case in chief and present that testimony on direct examination at that time.
Mr. Bagley?
Or any question with Mr. Brzezinski until the township presents its case in chief.
Understood. And again, I apologize, I didn't get your name, so.
Sean Rogers. I'm here for Michael Yano. We are going to be doing the same thing and deferring our questioning to the township's case in chief also.
Mr. Mandraki? Mr. DeRosa, do you have any questions for Mr. Mandraki at this time? Understanding that he is going to appear at a future hearing to, I'm sorry. Did I say Mandraki? Mr. Brzezinski, I apologize. All right, thank you. And Mrs. Turner. Let's see here. Those are the names. Were there any other individual parties that? Mr. Turner. Go ahead.
I would defer.
Thank you. What was his first name?
Jeff.
That brings us back to you, Mr. Jonas. Do you have another witness prepared for this evening?
I do not, Mr. Frye, because of the scheduling that we want to coordinate for the township manager and still the unresolved question regarding the subpoena of Mr. Clark.
So we're probably going to hold off on the subpoena on the solicitor until the next hearing. But have you discussed whether Mr. Mentry will be available for March 24th, or excuse me, February 24th? We're both doing it.
We have not had those conversations yet. I was unaware that Mr. Jonas had no further witnesses to call, so I was anticipating that we would have to see where he would get his witness list before we had those
So,
conversations.
Mr. Jones, is Mr. Mentry your next one?
He would be, Mr. Frye, if he's available.
Okay. Well, we'll have a month, so I guess if he's not available, you have other witnesses that you will call on February 24th.
I believe so, yes. If we do not, we'll advise the board and opposing counsel.
My plan is just for all the attorneys of record, my plan is to get you out a list of all the parties that I have to make sure my list and your list are consistent. And I'll do that between the hearings, again, just to make sure I did not have Mr. Turner's, that type of example, make sure I get everybody. I think I wrote down Mr. Rogers and Mr. Mr. Mandrakia. So I'll get that on the tweet so that we all know who's involved as a party status going forward after this evening. Why don't we just go off the record and talk with the parties? We'll go off the record. I'll come down and chat with the attorneys just to come up with a game plan. All right?
What the hell are we gonna talk about? I don't know. That's sketchy. Dude, I didn't have two of them. What year was that? Oh, okay. They got the front now. Yeah, yes. They don't do it. I forget what he held for. Yes. Trans Am had it too. Yeah. Imagine having 200 of them and giving it to a kid. We're expecting it. Not even in the rain. You like couldn't wait for it to snow to actually do a burnout.
All right, so we did just talk off the record, just on some procedural things. We wanted to take the opportunity, since it appears that we're gonna have some extra time this evening and hopefully get out of here early. The first question I have for all the attorneys is, I have one gentleman who cannot make the February meeting, and this may be true as we move forward. So I just want to ask anybody, do you have any objection if a board member misses a meeting, so long as they read a transcript, that they're still able to vote on this matter? Is there any objection from anybody on that?
No objection from the township.
Mr. DeRosa, any objection from you? And Mr. Turner?
No.
Thank you. So there's no objection from anybody on that. Mr. Mandrakia, so since you're there, Mr. Mandrakia just wants to put on some, basically an offer of proof as to why his attorney, or excuse me, his client, is it Regina?
Yes,
Mascaro, why she, sorry, say, so that she will have standing in this case, so that way we could properly consider her requests between the meetings. Proceed, Mr. Mandrake.
Thank you. And Mr. Jonas, thank you for allowing me to do this by an offer of proof. Members of the board, my client, when she was 5 or 6 years old, she was sexually molested by a person, a pedophile, and it has scarred her for life. And what has happened is now that they're trying to put this facility in this Arts HD, and our understanding of the people that may be in that facility, some being criminals, some being maybe pedophile, rapist, and what happened to her brings back this facility and the people that are going to be in it brings back and affects her memories of the past, may force her to go on medication again, and also how it may affect her children. It has a definite effect. This facility will have a definite effect on her mental well-being as well as for the safety of her children in her mind. And it's real, it's not imagined, it's not speculative, it's a real fear that she has based on a very unfortunate situation that occurred to her as a child. And I'm sure many of us are happy that we don't have to even imagine that. So that would be her testimony if she were to testify.
Thank you. Do any other attorneys or individuals have questions for Mr. Mandrake? All right, seeing none. There was one other point, Mr. Bagley, if you want to present that to the group.
Yeah, I just want to put on the record that since there's an absence of additional witnesses from the applicant this evening, I just want to foreclose any later claim that the applicant didn't have 7 hours in the first 100 days to provide evidence. If we could just confirm that with Mr. Jones.
That's confirmed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're just, we're still going to endeavor to do that. We're probably on track to do that with 2 more hearings, but you're correct. We can't guarantee that depending on what happens on any of these given nights. But and I'll try and keep track of how many we are giving for 2 reasons. One is legally we're supposed to give that to the applicant, but as a reciprocity, whatever we give the applicant, we're supposed to also give to the other side. So we'll make sure we track for Mr. Jonas so that we can also give the same amount to the other side as we go forward. With that, are there any other issues to come before the board this evening?
None.
Seeing none, we can adjourn, so we can announce that we will be back here on February 24th and March 24th at 7 o'clock. I will try between now and February 24th to reach out to the parties to get additional dates for April and May and with the school district so we can align up some additional dates for future testimony. Again, because our goal is to make sure that everybody in the public knows well enough in advance when these are happening so that you can plan to attend as well.
Okay, so as I understand it, we have no additional business for tonight? Is that correct? Okay, so everybody's here, so I'll just express the disappointment from the board that we're not ready. Like, we called everybody here. We could have done what we just did last night in the 24 minutes that were left and not had everybody come here tonight. So I'm going to ask you all to be ready for the next meeting so that we don't have further, impact to everybody's schedule. Not just the board, there's a bunch of people here tonight that thought we were going to hear testimony. So please be ready next week. Do I have a commitment from you, Mr. Jonas, because you're next up?
Yes, we assume the other parties would be questioning Mr. Kuzinski, and they not know tonight that they would not.
Okay. So we have a month to work on that. No excuses next month. We're going to have a full 3 hours. One clarification to a statement I made earlier about when we're going to allow the public testimony. The reason we wait to the very end is we want the public to hear all of the testimony rather than make a comment and then have to make another comment later. This way you're informed about everything. So that's why we wait to the very end. So I appreciate everybody's patience tonight. I'm sorry that we only had half an hour of business. We'll reconvene on February 24th. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion's adjourned, thank you.
Hey, anybody here that's against this, can you come over here for a minute? Because we were just given a gift. Can you come here for a minute just so we can talk in the meeting and not online? This is a gift.
Does anybody want a pizza? Anybody who wants to hear going on? I got an extra slice of pizza. Anybody? I didn't think I was going to open that.
We have everybody here. They just gave it.
Hey, if you're a member of the public who has a question, come over here. We're going to very quickly go over this topic. And we'll send out a project.
Shut it up. Shut it down again. We fought them for over a year by everybody in the community stepping up and helping out. I think everybody should back because by all, they should already be in the building. Everybody's standing up while we're here. So in the next month, this is what we need. Tell as many people in our province, your friends, share with whoever you can. We have to, on the social media, we're only going to reach so many people. There's still a lot of people who live here that definitely would not be for this, but they're not on social media. So, if you can just tell a friend, tell that friend to tell a friend. Just so the next meeting that we have, we all can hear, instead of whisper down the lane, of the guys there, you saw